We have quite a number of other leaders who have come. Tony Ilwobe means I don't do bad. And in fact, once you have joined APC, all your sins are forgiven.
That was Senator Adams Oshiomhole some months ago. But watch this next clip first, because you deserve an honest breakdown of what is actually happening right now.
Wilson, why did EFCC freeze these accounts some days to elections? What transpired?
Well, thank you, Rufai, for that question. As we indicated in the statement released by the Commission, we took that step to preserve the account of the Osun State government. We observed in the past 1 week that activities on that account look suspicious. And based on the mandate of the Commission, we took that step of placing a restriction order on that account to preserve that account. That restriction order does not mean that all the accounts of Osun State has been frozen. No, it is just a targeted restriction on one account of Osun State government. The essence, like I said, is just to preserve that account because we observe suspicious activities on that account in terms of transfer of funds to a number of entities within 1 week. And so we have to take that decision to place a restriction order on that account, not minding the fact that there is an election process in place. We have the responsibility under the law to do so.
If on the broader level, what people would want to ask is Osun State the only state that you are investigating? Are there other states in Nigeria that is currently under investigation, if you have the liberty to reveal? Again, going back to the timing of this, just a few days to the Osun elections, of course, you would understand the political tensions that currently exist in Osun State and accusations from the government of Osun State when it comes to state interference and tools used to muzzle their opportunity at the elections. This doesn't look very good for that. So I'd like you to share that. Number one, the urgency, the timing, was it a matter of emergency or urgency? Then is Osun State the only state that you are investigating? And since you were talking about investigation, since the EFCC is talking about how proactive it is, we had Hajia Shehu from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs come. I don't know if you watched the interview with Arise about last week or 2 weeks ago, where she talked about clearing her name for the sake of posterity and how she's written multiple letters to the EFCC, no response.
Well, let me address the issue of urgency. I mentioned the fact that we have noticed some suspicious activities in the last 1 week, especially beginning from August 2nd, a number of transactions that look suspicious, and we had to act. If you look at the election cycle in Nigeria, you observe that once we have election at the subnational level and a new government comes in, the first thing that they talk about is that, look, my predecessor emptied the treasury and we have nothing to use to run the government. And some of them may not even be able to pay salary. They go as far as going to banks to collect money to pay salary. Now we have a situation on our hands where the Commission observed that the statutory account of this state government, there are suspicious activities, and we had a responsibility to act under the law. People, like you rightly ask, why now? Because it's just like 9 days to the state election. If we say because of what people will say, because of insinuations that will be made, we should fold our hands. We'll be failing our duty to Nigerians. We'll also be failing our duty to the people of Osun. The decision that the EFCC is taking is to preserve the resources of that state. I'm not from Osun State, and the chairman of the commission is also not from Osun State. But we have a responsibility because the laws allow us to take preventive actions to preserve the resources of a state or any account for that matter. If we observe that there are suspicious dealings on that account, that is the decision that the commission take. And if we didn't take that decision, and like I mentioned earlier, things happened, things went awry. After the election, people will also raise the question, where was the EFCC? Why did they not take action? And as leaders, we should be able to take difficult decision in difficult moment. This for us and the EFCC was a very difficult decision to take because we know that people will raise insinuation. But we had to take that decision because it is our mandate to do so, and it is proper to do so because we need to preserve those resources for the people of Osun State. I believe that the government of Osun State even need to commend the EFCC because
Mr. Ujarin,
because we didn't
in the Ekiti State elections, and is this going to be the same going forward? Because this is is almost the first time the EFCC has been so proactive, especially with the sitting governor. It would be great to see this level playing field across board. And that's why I brought up the issue of Hajia Halima Shehu. And maybe this would give you an opportunity also to respond to that, because we haven't, had an EFCC response to that. So she said she's written multiple letters, because we want an EFCC that is active, that is working. But we do not want selective activism. Yeah. We do not want, what is perceived as a selective response to certain individuals. So what's happened with the, former governor of Kogi State matter? Is that still going on? What's happening with Halima Shehu and Dr. Betta Edu? What is the outcome of that? There's no expediency in these cases. And that's why we wonder why Osun State is just, it's quite curious to a number of people.
I understand where I'm coming from. But if you talk about what happened in Ekiti, we didn't have any reason to intervene the way we are intervening now. And that you don't have access to the information that we have access to. But I can tell you that Osun State is not the first state that we're taking this kind of action. During the Edo State election, before the coming of Governor Peolo, EFCC also took actions to restrict the account of that state government when we saw that funds were being moved to suspicious accounts, and we were able to preserve 12 billion for them. That is why the current government was able to come on board and have resources to work. So this is not targeted at any particular government. We are simply doing our work under the law.
Wilson, so it's a pattern. You do it to opposition governors, right? I'm happy you said it with your own mouth. You did it to Governor Baseki in Edo State.
I'm giving you
doing it to another opposition governor. All of this to be able to win elections, because in those two instances, elections. So I'm happy, Wilson, you've said with your mouth, it's a pattern. You always do it to opposition governors. Like I asked you rightly, it's not being done to other governors. Please answer the case on the woman, the Halima's own. Talk about the Halima's own, please.
Halima Shehu would like to respond. A quick response before Dr. Abati comes in. A quick response on Halima Shehu, please.
Rufai, I'm coming to that. Rufai, don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say it's a pattern for opposition governor. I said we have observed a pattern during the election cycle. That is the statement I made. So don't misinterpret my position on that. You talk about Halima Shehu, who says she wants to clear her name. Anybody that is accused of an offense that has the opportunity of clearing her name should be able to clear her name. But we have what we are doing within the commission. It's not everything that we respond to immediately. If we think it's not auspicious for us to respond, we don't respond. That investigation has not been concluded. It's still ongoing.
One, you've made a point about the anticipatory preventive role of the EFCC. And that's why I think the statement by Dele Oyewale made a point that without prejudice to the election. However, the concern is about timing. Maybe you need to shed more light on how EFCC can anticipate and prevent, the violation of, its own rules as stated in the Establishment Act. That's one. The second thing is that you have said, okay, even without court order, after 72 hours, the EFCC is in a position to revise its initial move. So in this particular case, it will be 48 hours today. It will be, will be close to 72 hours tomorrow. Based on all the investigations you have conducted, after, freezing the accounts, what is likely to happen after 72 hours? Are you likely to lift that order?
Thank you, Dr. Abati, for that question. We didn't freeze all the state government accounts. We only targeted one statutory account, which is restricted, temporary restriction on that account. And it does not stop the government from operating other accounts that they have. It's only one account that is frozen for now. Okay. And we have a 72 hours window to obtain a court order, which the commission is at liberty to do. We have not exhausted that window, 72 hours, within which we either obtain a court order to continue to freeze it or lift the restriction on that account.
Okay. Out of curiosity, what time did you freeze the Edo State account leading up to the last Edo elections?
Before the election,
how many days to the election
was held?
How many days? How many days or months to the election?
I have just told you that.
Wilson, you have the information. Give it to me now. How many days before the election did you freeze the Edo State account, Wilson? The EFCC freeze the account.
No, I mentioned Edo State example just to give you an indication.
I'm asking you a question. Give me how many days or months before the election in Edo did you freeze the accounts? Can you answer that question, Wilson? Maoga.
No, I can't tell you the number of days before the election it was
So you don't know the number of days you froze
immediately
the account
as I'm
before
speaking to you.
You don't know the number of days.
I can't tell you offhandedly now.
Okay.
It's not about knowing the number of days. What matters to the public was that there was a rescission order on the state account, and I told you that we were able to preserve 12 billion, which helped the new administration to take off.
If you're not confident to tell me the number of days before the election, is a pattern. And when a pattern is repetitive, it's something that we should look at.
The pattern that I will agree with you is that there's a pattern when it comes to election cycle, that funds are usually, most times there's suspicious account movement in terms of account, and we have a duty where we have that information to preserve those accounts from being dissipated.
And nothing of such happened in
the
APC
mind of the
states.
commissioner, we acted within the ambit of the law.
Now let's connect the dots. On that Arise News segment, an EFCC representative was invited on to explain why the commission is restricting certain government accounts in Osun State. Rufai Dr. Abati, they asked some genuine thought-provoking questions, and they were not accusing anyone, just pushing for real answers. But one particular question that stood out: is there a pattern here where EFCC seems to move fastest against opposition figures? They even referenced the Yahaya Bello case as an example people are pointing to. Now remember that first clip? Oshiomhole wasn't joking. He was actively welcoming defectors from PDP into APC, and he said this plainly: once you are in APC, your past doesn't matter anymore. So here's an honest question for you. Do you think that is a fair pattern to notice, or is it just how anti-corruption cases naturally unfold? Drop how you feel about it in the comments. And it is not just Osun. If you have been following this channel, you will notice this keeps coming up. Peter Obi has claimed he's been directly targeted. The ADC is dealing with its own court battles. Atiku's team has had its own back and forth with the presidency. Even Sowore has raised similar concerns. So the question becomes, is it just a coincidence that all of this is happening to people who haven't fully aligned with the APC? Or is it simply how anti-corruption efforts naturally played out when a party controls this much power? To be clear, because I need to say it, I'm not saying anyone is deliberately doing this. I'm only pointing out how people are reading the pattern based on what is actually unfolding. So before you go, drop your thoughts in the comments, share this with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe for more updates.